You are listening to episode 10 of Cocktails and Chat. Are you a maker running your own handmade business? Do you love it but sometimes wish you could go out for drinks with colleagues? If so, then you're in the right place. In this podcast, you'll get to meet a maker on each episode over a cocktail or mocktail. You'll hear about the challenges and joys of running your own business, and you'll learn about many different kinds of making. Just attempt your creative muscles. Mostly, you'll learn that you're in great company as a maker solopreneur. I'm your host, Sarah Jane Slocum. I provide bookkeeping for makers and artisans. In this series, the spotlight's on having fun and getting to know each other. So relax and join us. So Instagram didn't work out for us tonight, folks, but we are here in the group where I made it an event anyway. So I hope some of you can join in and meet one of our very own. We have Carolyn here. So this is the most hard won episode of all. This is episode 10 of Cocktails and Chat. And I have exciting news that this is officially now a podcast as well.
Ooh.
It has gone on to Spotify and a few others this week, and will hopefully show up on Apple and Google and several others next week. So
congratulations.
Thank you. But yes, we are here tonight to talk to you, Dr. Carolyn McMillan, PhD of Peripherie Botanicals. Thank you. Carolyn is a perfumer and aromatherapist, seeker and formulator of scents. Grounded in the art and science of natural botanical ingredients, Carolyn cleanly and consciously formulates custom personal care products. As the founder of Peripherie Botanicals, she is dedicated to empowering others in a shift to conscious aromatherapeutic beauty that connects the mind, body, and soul. She is also a researcher of olfaction, sensory technologist, writer, and creative design strategist, having built a successful career in the fashion industry, which is quite a jump. So I am intrigued to hear more.
Yeah, it is quite a jump, but I think what happened, how I got started is I was working in the fashion industry, so my research went into wearable technology, and through wearable technology, I discovered smell. And I really, really quickly became completely obsessed with smell. I trained in perfumery, I trained as an aromatherapist, I trained as a CBD practitioner, medical CBD. I just became obsessed with anything to do with smell. And also, on a personal note, after the birth of my son, I discovered I had an autoimmune disease, and I had surgery last year that was a bit of a health scare. And intuitively, I thought as well that scent was going to be something to do with the recovery. So I really immersed in that world. So it was partly research, but also partly a bit of a calling as well that converged. And
the best kind.
Yeah, and I was also really shocked when I was recovering from surgery that I was told to put mineral oil on a scar, or the medical practitioners didn't really have any answers for treatment beyond prescribing mineral oil for scars, which is made out of petroleum, which I didn't want to put on my skin. And so also through my own health journey, it started to make really a lot more sense to even dive even deeper into the plant medicine, like aromatherapy, as well as olfactory art and perfumery. Okay. So it just went deeper and deeper and deeper. My fascination. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more. So I had no idea that mineral oil was based on petroleum. Silly me, I thought the
Vaseline,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ah, well, Vaseline is actually petroleum jelly, so that one makes sense. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't connect. It sounds like, oh, minerals, it could be quite healthy or something like that.
Yeah. It's like somehow they squeezed rock, right? And got
yeah,
oil. That's
exactly.
obviously what that means. I wonder where the
Exactly.
name came from. But
Exactly. So I got really interested in clean beauty as well for that reason, that I was, because of my my autoimmune issues, I wanted to completely clean up any kind of other personal, as well as nutrition. What gets put on the skin as well was alarming.
yeah.
Some of the ingredients in there. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, we've kind of covered how you got started. I usually ask, what do you do and how did you get started? So what exactly is it that you do now through Peripherie Botanicals?
So I'm making aromatherapy consultations and blends, bespoke blends and bespoke perfumes for clients.
So how does that work? You make a bespoke skincare blend. I kind of get the idea of the perfume
So,
or something, but the skincare blend. So if I were to come to you and tell you that I've tried this lotion and that lotion and that lotion, and these have all broken me out or given me horrible reactions, but these ones are fine, and is that the sort of thing where you'd say, oh, okay, well, and you want so, and this is actually the truth. So I have tried natural lotions, especially face lotions, and I do not seem to get on with them at all. And so I have gone back to the bog standard supermarket stuff that probably is, I don't know, going to do terrible things to me, but right in the long run. But in the short run, it doesn't break me out, and it doesn't make me, it's the itch. It's always the itch. That's so yeah, if I came to you and gave you all the specifics, then you could actually maybe formulate a natural one that didn't make me itch.
Yeah, I think it also depends a lot on your own personal conditions or skin, or yes, there can be reactions and people can have reactions to natural ingredients as well. Maybe depends dry skin or whether it's sensitive, or, and something that would happen when I first meet a client is to listen, and often they will tell me what, if they're feeling anxious or something, they've got stomach problems or something really stressful is happening in life, and we just talk for a while and sort of get to the bottom or the root of what they're feeling is troubling them at the moment, and then how they want to feel. So in this case, if it was a skin thing, we might try and work out what happens. Is it after certain foods? Is it certain products? Is it in the heat? Is it, I would ask quite a lot of questions and ask questions about what they're currently using. And so it's really a lot of listening. And sometimes as well, reactions can happen if maybe this is something that comes up a lot with essential oils. They're very potent, so it's important to dilute them. Mm-hmm. And respect their potency, because sometimes when it comes to rose leaves, it's like, I've written it down in my notes, but it's something like 2,000 kilos or something of rose petals just to make a small amount. So they're incredibly concentrated. So a little goes a long way.
Wow. Okay.
And some products might be irritating some people's skin. It might just be that they might, or if they've got a nut allergy, it can also happen. If you put almond oil on your face, you might get a reaction. So there are so many things connected to it. So it's important to talk and listen and find something that really works for a particular person. And that's what I love about it, just the personalization of the whole experience of bespoke perfumery and aromatherapy. Aromatherapy goes deeper just because it is therapeutic, and there is chemical compounds that do cause certain physical reactions or emotional effects. So it just goes deeper, that layer, with the therapeutic side of it.
Awesome. Awesome. So All right. I had skipped ahead. I'd gotten so fascinated by what I skipped ahead. My second question is usually, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, yes, I chose a frozen squappino, and it's a aperitivo. And I think I've had a bit of a fantasy Italian holiday or Roman holiday going on in my mind through the pandemic. So anything Italian is, and lemon because of the change of season and the sun's out again, and lemon. So it has limoncello and vodka, and is it lemon sorbet?
Yes,
Or Slati, and a splash of prosecco.
indeed. And
It's sort of like a spritz with a bit of a punch, isn't it? Because it's got the added vodka.
It is excellent. Yes, I highly approve of it.
Very tasty.
I'd never come across it before.
Mm.
And we are both about halfway through because we have been having fun with Instagram, but no matter, we are here. And, we still have half a cocktail. So, okay, so back to basics. Please treat me like I know nothing about essential oils because I know almost nothing. So that's close enough. What are essential oils and how do they work?
They're the plant essences. So they're the compounds of plants. And these essential oils, they capture the smell of plants. So how they're produced, it's produced through a process of steam distillation, and that causes a chemical change. So it sort of splits into, and the essential oils get produced, and then the water or the hydrolyte gets produced, and they get siphoned off separately. So they're not exactly an oil, but they're called an oil because they don't dissolve in water. So that's probably the most simple way I can describe what essential oils is, but it's the essence of plants that's produced by steam distillation or like cold pressing. Like if you think of orange or lemon oil, that's it's pressed, the peel is pressed, but with flowers, it's the flowers are steam distilled.
Okay.
Produced.
Right. And how do they work? How do they work on us? So you mentioned mood, and I think we've all had that experience where we smell, so citrus will be energizing and uplifting, or we smell perhaps lavender and that'll start to relax us. So we've got that emotional thing. And then I'm told that they can also help with physical things too, like body ache, tummy problems, headache, congestion, etc. And I'm really unclear on how that works.
Yeah, so there's three pathways into the body. So one pathway is through the skin, a skin application. Think of like a massage oil. The second one is to breathe into the lungs, and then it gets absorbed in the blood vessels in our lungs. And the third is through the nose, through the olfactory bulb, which has a direct response to the limbic. I'll get a little bit scientific for a minute, but I'm not going to go too scientific. The limbic system in the brain, and that causes our flight or fright response. So what happens when with our sense of smell, it's not a cognitive sense. We don't think about it and process it. We smell and the body reacts straight away. The brain sends signals to fright or flight. So it's sort of our survival mode. That's why it's such an interesting sense. So the absorption is really through the blood vessels, and then it gets straight into the blood and starts working, except for the nose where it goes straight to the limbic system. So yeah, it can have different impacts depending on the pathway into the body. But I'm just going to give maybe two examples that might help make it clear. Eucalyptus, for example, it's a decongestant, and you breathe it in and it makes you want to cough straight away. So it kind of like into the lungs and just wants to bring everything up. And then, yeah, lavender is another one. You might smell it, and because lavender has a particular chemical compound that makes us feel calm, it will send those messages to the brain to sort of relax this flight or fright. You won't get that response. It'll work against the body wanting to produce cortisol, or it'll reduce the. So it can depend on what chemical compound is in the essential oil, and it can depend as well on the pathway to the body. So there's a few different things, but it's what surprised me about aromatherapy when I was learning it is it's far more scientific. You know, I always thought of it as a little bit woo-woo and a little bit pseudoscience, but the more I read about it, it's really heavy on chemistry and physiology and things. So
Yeah,
interesting.
You're reminding me. I did take about 5 years of biology between high school and university, and I have forgotten most of it by now. But you are reminding me of the way that we have the pathways of just how we experience, I don't know, alcohol maybe. And it's basically it's a chemical. Everything is a chemical. I feel like I feel duty bound to point this out to people who have the science. We like to say things have no chemicals, but literally everything is
a yes.
And so whether it's a good chemical or a bad chemical, whatever effect it has on us is another conversation. But yeah, so you have alcohol, and then it goes into your belly, into your blood, and into your brain, and then it is interacting with what's there through different mechanisms, basically. And then that's why you get to feel a little lightheaded, and maybe why I should switch to water right now. Anyway, but yeah, and so basically, it's going to be the same for aromatherapy, and those effects are different based on the different chemicals that are in each of those things. So alcohol has one effect, menthol has another effect that's going to open up. So you said that about eucalyptus. I've never actually tried that as a cough remedy, but I have had menthol when I have a cold or something. There's a thing you can get some menthol and put it in the bottom of the shower, and then it helps steam and makes you feel better anyway.
So it opens up all the pathways, and sort of reduces the inflammation. And I'm Australian, so I grew up with eucalyptus, and when we had a cold, there's a certain rub that we have, so it's sort of, I just think of it as having, I associate it with that now.
Fair.
But it's not good if you're asthmatic, because it can bring on it may bring on asthma. So if you're an asthmatic, be careful with eucalyptus.
Right. Duly noted. Okay, so are all essential oil brands the same? Because I have quite a variety of a collection right now. And I have noticed that some are stronger than others. So I just use them in a diffuser. But yes, so some are stronger than others. So I'll use more of one brand and less of another brand to make a blend, for example. But other than strength, are they the same? What's different?
Yeah, this is the thing. I think with no, they're not all the same. And I think with anything that you buy, quality varies depending on where you buy it from. And sometimes you will know something's better quality than others. And I think it's the same with essential oils. There are mass-produced brands. There are also brands that are a bit more it's a bit more crafted, or smaller runs, or they really focus on the quality. And I think it really depends. I've definitely got the brands I use, and you can also, sometimes they should be pure. Sometimes they're adulterated. So it can be hard to tell. And I think there is one way to tell that you can kind of put it on your finger. And if it's kind of feeling it should evaporate pretty quickly, because they're quite volatile. But if it's still feeling kind of oily, then it might be adulterated. They may have topped it up with something else, because some of them are also very expensive. So
yes,
some suppliers might want to just, get a bit of leverage on their stock and adulterate it. And you can also maybe drop it on a piece of paper, and then you will see after it's evaporated, it should all go. But if there's a bit of an oily spot left, you might know that there's it's not 100%, but it should be 100%. And there are a couple of brands that I use. I like to, there's one in France called Aromazone that I use, and Ashadi. There's also Ashadi in the UK, and there's another UK brand, Naissance, that some people are using as well. But there are lots of different places. And I think what's important to me as well is ethical and sustainable suppliers. So I'm quite conscious of a plant if it's endangered or something, and then I'm not going to buy Indian sandalwood or things that I know that are very under threat. So I'll also look at where they've sourced it from as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how can you use essential oils to help with well-being?
Yeah, I think in an atomizer is a really good way to use it, or an aromatic bath is really lovely as well.
Oh, so how do you have a bath with essential oils? Because I was going to do this last week and then I Googled it and it said, oh, you can't just put oil, drops of oil into your bath. It doesn't work. It's dangerous. It's horrible. You can't do that. You have to do this 5-step process instead. And I said, oh my God, that's too much work. I'll just put the diffuser into the bathroom and be done with it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's worth listening to those safety because there are some oils that are very potent, and they do cause skin sensitization. There's not many of them, but it's always good to be cautious, let's say. But what I do is I mix mine in with honey, actually, because honey's quite nice on the skin. So I get quite a bit of honey, like a tablespoon of honey, and just drop the oils in and mix it. Maybe I do no more than 6 drops or something like that, maybe 6 or 8 drops, and mix it all in, and then it goes into the bath, and because it will mix into the honey or dilute into the honey. Or you can use an oil, a carrier oil, like an almond oil, or even an olive oil, like any oil that it will mix into, and it does kind of settle on the bath, but then when you come out, the skin is nice and soft from the oil. So, but also, like you said, an atomizer is great, or even just on a tissue. Sometimes popping it on a tissue in the shower or the bath, and you can smell it. So I think as long as you can smell it, it doesn't need to be on the skin to get the well-being effects. It's fine to just inhale and yeah.
So is there a limit to how much or how often you should use essential oils?
Yeah, again, that depends on if the condition is acute or if it's 2 examples. Maybe you've got a really achy joint or something, and you might want a high dilution, but you might only use it for 5 days, just until the ache is gone, and you wouldn't want to use it every day. So that would be an example of an acute, maybe the dilution is 15% essential oil in a carrier oil, massage oil blend, as opposed to skincare where you might just use 1%. So maybe every 30 mils of jojoba oil, you might put in maybe 9 or 12 drops of essential oils. It's got a much lower ratio, and then that would be able to use every day. But then you would want to be quite careful about the essential oils being ones that are known to be safe to use on the skin, like frankincense or patchouli, or I mean, there are oils like peppermint that should not be used on the skin. And there are some other ones like wintergreen you have to be very careful of. So it's just about getting to know which ones are okay to use on the skin. And I think it's difficult because there's a lot of misinformation online, or there is a lot of information online. So I think it can be hard to navigate those waters of finding the right way to use them. But there is a really good source, Robert Tisserand, or the Tisserand Institute. And I think he's got a great book out and a website, and it's just good to know about those kind of
Excellent. Yes, I was
Sauces.
just going to ask you, where is a safe place to look for this information?
Yeah, that, and they have safety courses even, and a book. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay, so what are your top scents to help with some of the common issues that entrepreneurs face, like overwhelm,
Yeah.
tiredness, disrupted sleeping, depression? And I was surprised to see that this is on the top list, but ADHD.
Ah, right. Interesting. Well, I think anything that calms the mind and brings the body back to its homeostasis, and that's what aromatherapy is good for, bringing the body back to that state of homeostasis to then help support the body to get back to its natural state of wanting to heal. So with those kind of conditions that you listed, definitely anxiety or stress or overwhelm or stress is a huge one. The cortisol production and this actually can be quite harmful for your health. So I would think the number one is lavender. It's just such a sweetheart and a favorite. Or chamomile. Those ones are really good to just breathe and just get rid of that overwhelmed feeling. And I actually really like vetiver.
Okay.
Vetiver and lavender together, they're very grounding. And I've had an aromatic bath before when I've had a migraine or been in a state where I've had too much going on. And it was really just like a wave of sedate. It's like a wave of disappearing all the aches and tensions. So I think it can be personal for some people. Maybe if they've got a scent memory, an association. Some people don't like lavender, and that's okay. You know, everyone has different reactions to smells. So it's also about finding what you like yourself. But definitely lavender and vetiver, Roman chamomile, bergamot is a known antidepressant, and that can be really good, like a little pep, a little refreshing. Any of the citrus ones are really great for just sort of feeling joy or getting a bit of an uplift or a little energy boost.
Yes, citrus is usually in my diffuser in my daytime blend.
Yeah, they're great for the day.
Crack through the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was curious what you would recommend for relaxing, especially for people who didn't like lavender, because my mother-in-law helps me with these questions, and she wanted to know because
people don't like lavender. I think some people absolutely love it. Like I read quite recently that Prince always wore lavender, and people could smell him coming because he was wearing lavender. I mean, makes sense. He was purple. He loved purple. So
right, yeah.
that's a little funny story I always think of. But if you don't like lavender, chamomile, Roman chamomile is a really good one, and vetiver is very, very nice. It's quite earthy, and it's found in it's actually a lot of men's fragrances, but it's earthy and grounding, and it's probably more if you don't like this kind of floral notes, then you might like something that's a bit more sort of, it's not quite woody, but it's a bit more on the side of being fresh and earthy.
Sounds good. Maybe slightly musky then.
Yeah, a little bit. It's made from a root, so it's sort of a grass. It's a grass, and it's from the root. It's really in a lot of men's fragrances. So I think when you do smell it, it's a familiar.
Yeah.
There's a familiarity about it.
Okay. Right.
And I also really love, ADHD. Focus is very difficult. When I was writing my doctoral thesis, I used a lot of cypress, and what else? I wrote it down: cypress, juniper, and fennel. And for focus, and what fennel gets you really unstuck, and juniper and cypress were really good for focus, and that really seemed to work.
Oh,
I really love that combination.
I don't know that I've had any of those three yet.
Yeah.
All of this. So
yeah,
yes, I could definitely do with getting unstuck some days.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that I don't know, you want to get into a little bit of a creative spell or get your flow on or something like that, and you just want to focus with a positive sort of mindset. So
absolutely,
a good one.
this is for makers and artisans. So yes, I
Yes.
think that will ring a lot of bells for a lot of people. So do you have a favorite scent blend, or does it just vary based on what you need that at that point?
Yeah, definitely varies based on what I need, but I love sandalwood, and yeah, sandalwood is very dreamy, and I really love it with tangerine and like a little touch of vanilla. Something, it's just beautiful. There's something about sandalwood, but it's expensive and it's endangered. So, you know, I really use just the tiniest bit and really treasure just using a little bit, but it's really lovely. And I also really like lavender and lemon together.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a shampoo with a lavender and lemon. That was a really nice combination, really bright and energetic. And you wouldn't think so with lavender. You think of it's being quite relaxing, but together they were just really beautiful.
That does sound really nice. Yeah. Lavender. I have some lavender cookies, and they're a recipe, and it is always a hit when actually I go out and see people.
Yeah, very nice. With an Earl Grey tea in the afternoon with a bit of bergamot, that would be lovely.
The recipe came with an icing, but they don't really need it. But if you did want an icing, I bet if you put a lemon icing on it, it would be.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Yeah. Anyway, you are a CBD practitioner, and I know literally nothing about that. Please, could you tell us all about it? What does that mean? So you are talking about cannabis.
Yeah, I will. It's quite scientific, so I'm gonna not be scientific about it. But basically, it is CBD is from the cannabis sativa plant. So cannabis, which has been a medicinal plant for thousands of years, and it's got a very ancient history of use. And the CBD compound is non-psychoactive. So the CBD part is not, it's not going to get you high, and it has different effects. It's actually a different, it's the same plant, but different strands of the same plant. So the plant with CBD has a higher concentration of the CBD. And the interesting thing about the cannabis plant and our bodies is that they produce similar compounds. So humans produce endocannabinoids, and cannabis will produce phytocannabinoids, and they can, in the 1990s, very recently for science, they discovered that humans have an endocannabinoid system. So the good thing about this as a medicinal plant is that you can use CBD, and if your endocannabinoid system is deficient in any way, the cannabinoids will feed what the body needs. So there's a lot of new science, and unfortunately, there's some very exciting stuff coming out that it's very useful for cancer and all sorts of things, but the research has been so restricted because of its status as an illegal drug, unfortunately.
Which is easing, happily. It is easing.
Yeah. So I guess like today, medical CBD, it could be used to, that's legal in many, I know in the UK it is, and it can be used to treat really a host of conditions from PTSD and cancer and pain and inflammation and really a host of different things. So it's a really exciting area, and I think it's been seen as a bit of a breakthrough for the future of medicine. So that's what really excited me, because combined with aromatherapy is all about the aromatic compounds, the plant essences, and the cannabis plant also has these aromatic compounds. So together they work in a kind of harmony, synergy. So it's just a really exciting area. You know, maybe you would have a massage oil and it would have an aromatherapeutic one, but it has some CBD in it as well, and it can really do a lot for inflammation. It's been shown to be very good for irritable bowel syndrome and all sorts of things. There's early research about breast cancer, so it's just a really exciting area. I got really into it from the aromatherapy and also because of my autoimmune issues, but it's really, yeah, fascinating area, especially when they're used together.
Yeah, that does sound fascinating. So you you were saying that about how we have a system that's complementary to the plant's system so that we're able to use it. And that reminds me, and this is kind of tangent, this is completely different. But that reminds me of, so my husband got diagnosed with high cholesterol, really high cholesterol, in November 2019. And I spent December doing a whole lot of research into it and what we could do about it. And when he saw the doctor, and then we threw everything at it, we were terribly unscientific. And I said, we will try all of these things. We will not try one at a time and see what works. We will try all of these things all at once. And it worked, thankfully. Right. And the doctor was absolutely gobsmacked because the doctor prescribed statins. And my husband took one look at the research and side effects and things and said, yeah, let's try something else first. And so we did. And when we went back, and the doctor said, your cholesterol is so high, only statins will do anything. Lifestyle changes won't do anything. And but we tried, like I said, everything. And we threw science out, we threw spreadsheets at it. And when they went back, the doctor was absolutely gobsmacked and said, how have you done this? Nobody's ever done this before. And he said, well, we did this, that, and the other. But yeah, so one of those was plant sterols, and that was something where the plants create this, and now it's been over a year since I've done that research, but the plants create this thing that is complementary to our own system. So then we create the same thing, but if you don't create enough of it, or you just need more, then you can take plant sterols, and you can get them in pills, you can get them in supplemented in dairy products usually, because dairy increases uptake. So it's in margarines and yogurts and things like that. So you can just get them at the supermarket that way. But you take this and it latches onto cholesterol and sweeps it through your system and out before it has a chance to make an impact on your system, basically. But that's the same sort of mechanism, that we are creating these things, but we can also take it from plants and supplement
to boost.
Yeah. So that's a lot like what you were just saying about.
So very clever, the plants.
Yeah. So
and the body.
It's almost, science is just fascinating in these ways, isn't it?
Yes. And I think definitely the more I start to learn about it, the deeper I want to go. It's, the mystery of it as well, of life. And yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I think I was, maybe there's an inner biologist that was hiding in me when I was a textile designer in fashion all these years, drawing flowers, and maybe it was a bit of an inner biologist just wanting to, or ethnobotanist wanting to come out.
There you go. You found it. So how did you make that jump from fashion, into aromatherapy?
Well, I guess my doctoral research was a bit of the jump, because I was looking at wearable technologies and sensory technologies. I wanted to look at the senses, because I mean, the audio-visual senses are so prioritized in our modern culture, definitely in Western culture. And since the Enlightenment has been definitely a hierarchy of the senses. And the more I got into that and realized how under-intellectualized and undervalued senses like smell was. And it's not seen as trustworthy as a scientific tool. And I went deeper and deeper into it. So, I mean, I started off with fashion and the body and technology, and then went into smell and went into neuroscience and how our brain processes smell. And I made an automated robot with a brain controlled interface that automatically, it's almost like you could brain control perfume vials to make a perfume of different levels based on your thoughts, sort of like a live symphony of different smells coming out. So that was my doctoral research. So I think it was through the neuroscience that I started to get into the science of smell, and then definitely into the what if of aromatherapy in this kind of scenario where you might be using a brain controlled interface to kind of think your own smell. Or it was really fascinating when I started to get into, because I was looking a lot at wireless communication technologies and social media, so or these kind of communication technologies. So, and it was really important to me that you would be empowered with your own data. So it was almost like you would be able to walk around and think your thoughts and put them out as a perfume. But if you were able to, through meditation, be really mindful and choose your thoughts, you would be able to choose what's projected. So it would be fascinating to learn more about pheromones and all these kind of things as well. But it was the science of smell and the attraction, and it led me on to ecological thought and the way flowers, again back to plants, and the way they attract pollinators, and really scent is produced by plants to attract, manipulate, or repel pests and pollinators. And so it's really like the basis of life. So I think that's where that was the part. That was a long answer to your question, but that was how it all connected.
Did you succeed in that, in creating the robot that you could control with your mind to create the scent?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
A very a functioning prototype, but it would be fantastic to develop it further. And
what kind of?
I'm not an engineer, but I got it functional. Yeah.
Wow, well done. That's amazing. So, what if it could be mass produced and we could all go down to Tesco and buy one? How would I use it? What would I use it for?
Yeah, and this is the really big question. It would be, and these were the what ifs I explored in my research as well, because there are actually, for example, in Canada, there are campaigns against fragrance. So there are campaigns called No Scents Make Sense. So there are places that don't want people to wear any kind of fragrance or emit the smells because there might be allergens, or it's just, can you imagine everyone, if it was down at H&M or like you say, the Tesco, and everyone's walking around, you would have this giant olfactory cloud. There would be so much olfactory noise. And I guess we live in a world that there are so many smells everywhere anyway. So this would sort of heighten that. And you know how powerful it is if someone's got a Chanel perfume on, and they, you know, that's really, those perfumes have a lot of projection, and you can really smell it for a long time afterwards. And so, I mean, these are things that would need to be tested, of course. But that's one of the big questions. Is that really what would be wanted? So I think control, being able to control, or just more personal use, or smaller little moments of it, rather than just constantly all the time.
So how did the user control what scents were coming out then? Was it thinking about different memories maybe of scent, or moods?
Yeah. So yeah, the piece was it was about memories of petrichor. Petrichor is the smell of rain on fresh earth. So there is a perfumer's ingredient called geosmin, and that is the scent of rain or fresh earth. So my robot was a speculative one for a future. It was a sci-fi scenario of, if we have no more water, is that what people will want to buy? Will they like to buy the memory of rain on fresh earth if it's something that is not experienced so much anymore? So it was a what if for that scenario. So it was an old factory art piece, and it was a dance performance. So it was worn on a dancer. So the idea was that she would perform and the scent would come out in, I'd broken it down into accords. And so she would dance, and then it would be a recording. It goes quite deep into neuroscience, but basically neuroscience, the pattern of a memory is like a double oscillation. So it's like the memory comes and it comes in like a double ripple. So that was really fascinating, that you could wear something and then wear it again and again and again, a bit like an infinity mirror of smells. So there was just so much creative potential as well with the sense of smell and what it does, and teamed with this new technology as well. I thought it was really fascinating, such a big wide open space.
It really is.
To explore.
Yes, thank you. So does technology have an effect on your well-being?
Yeah, I think technology in itself is not, I don't believe it's inherently good or bad. It's really what we use to interact with our material world. So I think it can affect well-being when the systems that go along with it are, I think some examples with my research, I looked into this with the use of social media or wireless communication technologies, that it's such a big topic. But some of these network systems can be surveillant by design, or with ideas like surveillance capitalism and manipulative in social media, in the way that it is, the algorithms are designed to sort of get a reactive response out of people, that sort of feeds these tense feelings and reactions, and because people are more engaged when they're in these states. And so I think it's a lot about the systems that are used, and also can be quite predatory for young people, their mental health as well, with the selling of advertising space to young people with inappropriate things like dating apps for older men, or gaming, or something like that. So I think that technology is not bad in itself, but some of the systems behind it, the intention, can really impact and affect well-being for sure. I mean, the blue light from our devices impacts our circadian rhythms, and so, like anything, just a mindful use of our technologies can limit the effect, but I think it does have a big effect on our well-being, and it disconnects us from nature as well. I've got a quote that I found was really powerful, that really hit home to me about the question that you asked, Sarah Jane. So it's by a philosopher and writer, and his name's David Abrams. And he argues that as we enter more deeply into the world of ubiquitous computing, and by that he means the network technologies that we use that are invisible, we don't see our Wi-Fi systems, they happen around us. We increasingly seal ourselves into an exclusively human zone of interaction. We enter in a bizarre kind of interspecies incest. And to me, that's such a powerful quote about the disconnection from nature and other living beings, and just with the wider living world. If we're spending too much time on our screens, we're only really interacting with each other and not with anything else. So yeah, your question, that just reminded me of that quote, that it was really powerful, I think.
Yeah, I know I've taken to not taking my phone with me when I go for walks, because I get too absorbed in taking photos of it to share with myself or other people later. And I don't notice the other critters, the other species quite so much. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the smells and the wind and the birds and all the other things, yeah, exactly, that are happening around. You're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are positive, I think there can be positive things from the technologies there.
Oh, there's
For
loads.
example,
Like our being able to meet it all, to be honest.
absolutely. and an aroma diffuser is a technology that, of course, increases well-being because you can diffuse essential oils in the air. So, yeah, I think positive and negatives, but they're not the cure for the problem. So, in fact, I think less is the cure to the problem. To be mindful and, yeah, like you said, go out for a walk and not take the phone, or yeah.
It is a little disappointing though when Google emails me about my timeline every month and it says, "Oh, you didn't walk anywhere." I'm like, "Well, I did. I just didn't tell you about it."
You with me. Yeah. You didn't invite Google. Sorry, you don't want to let them know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's quite funny. You tricked him.
So yes, you mentioned at some point that your research for your doctorate included how we smell risk, and I'm so intrigued by this.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the next time I'm at the pool hall and I'm trying to work out whether I'm being hustled, that I might be able to smell it if I know what to listen to sniff for?
Yeah, I like that, and that's a good question. I mean, possibly if you're with the right attunement on your side, you may well, and there's a lot in body language, but
Well, yes.
yeah, you might be able to sense the danger maybe somehow. But research has shown, I mean, our sense of smell is very visceral. We feel it in our body. Our body just reacts before we even have a chance to think about it. Actually. It can do things you might not want it to do just because it's reacting before you've had a time to think. And, when you think of danger, we smell danger, we smell fire, exhaust. It sort of enables us to sniff out a crisis, rotten food. So because our smell is connected to the limbic system and it causes the fight, flight or fright, the body acts to defend life straight away. So that's the research on the smell of risk. That's the sort of essence behind it.
Okay, so that's a much more sort of clear and present danger, really, if you're going to talk about your fight or flight or freeze response.
Yeah, and I investigated this in my research as well with using our technologies. Would we be able to sniff out a more ethical or ecological response in the technologies we're using or our interactions? And what I discovered is that the sense of smell, it really attunes you back to your environment. So there's an awareness of maybe rain is coming, or you can kind of smell the air is a bit, or you can smell the tree nearby, or, I mean, at the moment, Berlin has a lot of lilac blossoms and really the air smells like flowers and everything's flowers. So it can really connect you back to these things that are happening with meteorology, or even like the duration of time, the passing of time to animals. So I think yes, there's risk as well, but I think it also attunes you back to the natural world, or it's a very environmental sense and a very ethical sense. It can be used very politically to other as well. And so it can be a lot more nuanced than just running for your life or something. I think it can be.
Okay, well, thank you for that fantastic tour of aromatherapy. And now I wanted to ask you some questions about business, because we're all entrepreneurs. That's what's brought us together. So have you always wanted to run your own business?
Yes, I have. It's been niggling away for decades in the back. Yeah.
And so when did you start?
Well, I started very recently because I was quite busy with my doctoral research, but I really wanted to dive into I mean, I have, with my background in product development and fashion, I really just love the narrative storytelling, and smell, particularly in perfumery, is really about narrative and imagination and sort of being taken away on a journey or time traveling with memories. And I love doing that. And I love working with people and their stories and crafting something together that is made from this story, and reminders and memories and ingredients. That to me, I just really love doing that.
Why have you always wanted to run your own business?
I think there's something about the autonomy and the freedom, even though it's a lot of hard work. I just,
Is that
especially as a maker as well, just this choosing to be able to be in that state of flow when you can be, is a really special thing about running your own business, I think.
absolutely. Nobody coming and bothering you and saying, oh, can I just poke my head in here and bother you about the date I had last night?
Yeah. Well, yeah, pop my head in, or do it faster. We're waiting. And you know, with something, when you're making, to be put under that pressure to make faster is actually quite a stressful thing. You're sort of already doing it as fast as you can and already pressuring yourself to do the best. So I think as a craftsperson or a maker, that sort of isolation or solitary mode of having your own business can be a positive thing for that.
Absolutely. Well, I know I don't want you to bother me when I'm doing your bookkeeping as fast and as properly as I know how to do. So, not just making.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you can answer this yet, but what is one thing you wish you had known when you started your business?
I wish I just automatically just been a genius with marketing strategy and didn't have to learn it. Digital marketing strategy, to just know it, like download it and know it all. That would be incredible, because that in itself is a very detailed, very complex, and you can go very deep into systems and strategies that I really knew nothing about, because I was always working in the design side, and that was quite different. And I think the two work together and overlap, but can be counterintuitive. They're sort of looking at different places. So that's something I wish I'd known. I'd also wish I'd known just how to be an excellent bookkeeper and been really, you know, great with finances. That would be a great foundation for starting a business.
These are things that you can learn. So yeah, but it would be lovely if we could, like in the Matrix, just automatically download whatever it was we needed and not have to slog through hours and weeks and months of it.
Yeah, and I think the setup phase is longer than, it took me a lot longer than I imagined it would, and the tech stack and all the different moving parts that need to come together.
Absolutely, yeah. So when you are...
And a good mindset, sorry to interrupt, but having a good mindset is...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gosh, mindset's everything. And I knew nothing about that basically until I started a business. As I always say, being an entrepreneur is the biggest piece of self-development work I think anybody will ever do.
Yes, yeah. You go quite deep. Yes.
You have to, because you get those days where you feel so discouraged. And if you don't even know how to do the mindset work, you will be discouraged and you won't know how to pull yourself back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So on that note, when you are working through problems in your work, who do you talk to?
Yeah, I think I really value my communities of mentors, other like-minded makers or entrepreneurs, and groups, peers. And I think that's the real blessing, the good part of technology and the systems that we have, that it's possible to have that. These days there are so many groups. So I think it's great to be able to ask a question somewhere and someone always knows the answer and can help, and that support as well, especially with, I mean, particularly women entrepreneurs. I think it's not a gendered thing at all, but this solidarity is really, that's what really helps me keep going.
Absolutely. You mentioned mentors. How do you go about finding a mentor? Because I haven't actually heard anybody else mention mentors.
Yeah, I think I definitely sought out coaching because although I have a strong design background, I was really finding I was lost when it came to digital marketing and just the tools of having an online business. So I did ask people I admire, friends who have very successful businesses. I might ask them, said, oh, who do you admire or who do you look to? And I really value their opinion. So I would follow their suggestions.
Fair enough.
And then from there, it just goes and branch out, and then you become familiar with other things. So I just started that way. People with a good business head, I would always ask their opinion, and I listen.
Well,
Yeah.
it's good that you had those people in your life. I think I knew one person who was self-employed when I started, and that's the person who got me into this mess.
Right.
But she is self-employed. She's not really running a business. She is able to. So in my head, there's a bit of a difference between freelancing and running a business, regardless of the legal structure. So I feel like at the beginning I was freelance because I was just sort of working for whoever came along and asked for me to do something that I could help with. And then I decided to run a business, and I'm still a sole trader. It's not the difference between a limited company and a sole trader. It's just the difference between saying, actually, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to market it and I'm going to find strangers to hire me. And so to me, that's a huge part of the difference between the two. And so, yeah, I actually knew nobody who had a business personally as a friend anyways. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic when you do. But I found Entrepreneurland, which is full of wonderful supportive communities like you. And it's just been fab.
Yeah.
So in addition to your aromatherapy, what other kind of making do you do?
Well, I still do enjoy sometimes to make fashion and accessories. So I do like to get on the sewing machine, or just as an ex-textile designer, I've just got a love of beautiful textiles, and that love's never going to disappear no matter how much I try and go into different areas. That was always my passion since I was a child. So I have lots of scraps of really beautiful bits of fabric, or do some indigo dyeing, or nothing on a big scale, but it's nice to keep in touch with that and use the hands, and just forget how long things take as well. I think you can become so used to everything being at your fingertips all the time. And then when you indigo dye something and dip it, and then have to dip it again, and it takes time, and yeah, it's all about time and attention, and it's almost quite meditative. So I do still enjoy that. And I love to cook, I love to garden, and
I was going to say, yes, cooking is definitely another thing that's very meditative, and I imagine gardening as well. I hate it personally, but I'm told that it is quite meditative.
Yeah.
And so what do you like most about running a handmade business?
I think what I really enjoy is the meeting like-minded people and stories and connections. I love a good yarn and a good story, and particularly when it comes to aromatherapy and perfumery, and just taking that time and giving that space to listen and have a deep conversation with somebody. I think that's what I've really enjoyed the most. that's what I love, and that's why I do what I'm doing. And I love the science, the plant science of it all. So that's really endlessly fascinating. Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of makers mention being able to connect with the stories of people. So people who make memorial items or bespoke items and yours is bespoke as well, of course, are able to connect with the stories of their customers. I love storytelling. I'm an avid fan. So yes, it's not surprising. It's in our DNA, storytelling and the fascination with it.
Yes.
So how do you, I like to ask all my guests this, how do you know when a work is finished, when a blend is finished or a product is finished or whatever it is that you're making?
Yeah, that can be a tough one. I think sometimes you have to finish. You could tinker away forever, but there is a deadline. But for me, I think it's when particularly in the case of a bespoke work or making a perfume for someone, it's definitely when they smell it and they feel inspired and they know that's it. They smell it, that's it, and they want to put it. They're over the moon and they want to put it straight to good use. That's a good sign that it's finished. Other times it can be more difficult. You can go a bit back and forth, or there's an idea, you want to put two ingredients together and they sort of just are resisting each other and don't really want to go together, and it takes a bit more work. You've got to try different things, and then happy accidents happen. It's a bit more of a process of iteration, but certainly I think when you've got something and someone's over the moon with it, that's finished. When there's a magic and it's finished, and when it smells good.
Oh, well, they tend to smell good at any point, really. Okay, right, fair enough. So what do you have coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I'm working on a couple of bespoke perfumes at the moment, and they're a lot of fun, and I'm doing a little bit of research into sandalwood and its use, the history of use that goes back. A lot of times in Western knowledge, things will go back to the Egyptians and sort of stop there or not. But I want to delve deeper into Australian sandalwood, and it has a history of use of tens of thousands of years. So I'm doing some research on that. I'm working on bringing a podcast into the world that I'm really excited about, because again, this chance to connect and hear people's stories and interview people I really admire, work that I admire, and that's exciting. And
what will the podcast be on? Do you know yet?
Yeah, it's I want to look at the sensory aspects of the art and science of plants, because they're so central to human civilization. So, but certainly with a design, art, sustainability focus, and yeah, people that are, I think, doing some really exciting things with.
Fabulous. And do let us know when it is out.
Yes. Yes. Just in the beginning stages as well. It's quite a process with the.
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that.
Yes, I was just going to say, you've just been through the process of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And I will link up to everything in the show notes, but where is the best place for the audience to find you online?
Yeah, you can look at I have a website, so peripherie.online. So it's PERIPHERIE. It's the French spelling. And also my Instagram at McMillan or at Peripherie Botanicals. And they're the best places.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Carolyn. This has been
Thank you, Sarah
fascinating.
Jane.
And I feel like we could have hours and hours more of discussion. I'm fascinated by what you've studied, by what you've learned. It has been just a total education, and especially the CBD bit, which I am astonished to know how much it can help us with.
Yeah, it's really a breakthrough. They tip it as being really the future of medicine. So I think there's a lot of, we'll hear only more about it in the coming years as more research comes out, and
yes, well,
a lot of fascinating studies at the moment.
I'm so grateful that it's being legalized so that they can do this research and figure it out and help people with it, which is the idea.
Definitely. Right. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you tonight. It's been a real pleasure, and yeah.
Thank you. Well, I guess that's it. If you want more of Carolyn, you can find her on Instagram or her website. If you want more of me, you can find me in our Facebook group. You can also find Carolyn there. In Handmade Business Club UK. I'm just making sure there's no comments. No. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have picked up some tips for using aromatherapy for your well-being. Have a fantastic night. I hope that you are enjoying the rest of your cocktails, whatever they may be at home. I have certainly enjoyed my Scropino, which is a kind of cocktail you can't pronounce after too many of them.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's very tasty.
It is. I wasn't sure about that lemon sorbet in it, but it really works.
Yeah, it does. It makes it like a granita, or it makes it really frothy or fluffy or something. It's
yeah. Right.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Have a fantastic.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks. Bye. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cocktails and Chat, the podcast for building community among makers and artisans. If you'd like to continue the chat, please do join us in the Facebook group Handmade Business Club UK, or join my mailing list at amethystraccoon.com/newsletter. For the show notes with all the places to find Carolyn, please visit amethystraccoon.com/cc10. If you liked this episode, please leave a rating or review. It really does help. Until next time, happy making and cheers!